Turning now to our big story tonight, you finally get your unemployment payment, but then a few months later, you get a notice saying you have to pay it all back.
Claimants and unemployment attorneys, they say efforts to curb fraud are punishing people for honest mistakes. Fox 6 investigator Amanda St. Hilaire gives us a closer look.
Filing an unemployment claim can feel high stakes. One mistake, weeks of headaches. But then there are cases like Amanda Johnson.
I wouldn't wish this on anybody.
Who says that one mistake has haunted her for years.
I never thought it would come back so dramatically.
In fall 2017, Amanda was out of a job and receiving unemployment benefits. She says that's when she got a $300 check for children's dance classes she taught months before.
And I cashed it, not thinking that I did anything wrong, not thinking that, that was against the rules.
More than 6 months later, the state sent Amanda a notice that she needed to pay back her unemployment, accusing her of intentionally concealing her work at the dance studio. Fraud.
I sat in this living room and I cried and I cried and I cried.
Amanda couldn't just pay the $300 difference. She had to pay back all her unemployment, plus a 40% fine for fraud. The total, $4,851.
I paid it out of pocket and it hurt and it took a while to pay it, but I did.
Fast forward to 2020.
I had found a job, working the job, loving the job, and then the pandemic hit. And so like a lot of people in America, I found myself furloughed, sitting at home.
But Amanda can't get unemployment benefits. When you're flagged for fraud, on top of the fines, you lose future benefits. And that's how what Amanda calls a $300 mistake added up to more than $12,000.
I was just teaching some kids some ballet. I mean, I was not trying to defraud the state of Wisconsin. I really wasn't.
Amanda's situation wasn't unheard of before the pandemic. Now unemployment claims have flooded the system, and more people are getting notices they were overpaid and need to pay their unemployment back. Public records show in 2019, the state detected roughly $13.3 million in overpayments. That's 3.3% of all the unemployment payments that went out. In just the first 6 months of the pandemic, the state detected nearly $33.9 million in overpayments. That's just 1% of all the payments that went out. So far, the overpayment rate is lower, but that's still at least 56,961 people who've been told to pay their unemployment back during the pandemic. Roughly 4% of those payments were flagged as fraud.
And if you make a mistake, you get something wrong, they go after you. Before this pandemic, I was telling people not to file unemployment benefits because it was too dangerous.
It's all part of an effort to curb unemployment fraud, which does happen. We've covered it.
In 2010, he decided to beef up his paycheck by claiming he was out of work.
An unknown imposter attacked its information technology systems.
Whomever applied for benefits under Albert's name had his address in Wauwatosa, his social security number, and work history.
But employment attorney Victor Forberger says Wisconsin's system has become so complicated, it's easy to make an honest mistake and hard to prove it's not fraud.
It's a problem that no one wants to address.
The State Department of Justice prosecutes unemployment fraud. We asked for an interview, no response. The Department of Workforce Development runs the unemployment system. They said no interview. Remember that $13.3 million in 2019 overpayments? When you add up the fraud penalties and reduction in future benefits, the state collected $18.2 million.
So the department right now has a financial incentive for charging fraud.
Being flagged for fraud can mean more than hefty fines.
I'm going to go to jail for this?
Raquel McCarthy told us what she told the state, that she was confused when filing her unemployment claims 5 years ago and did not report the hours she worked at a temp job.
I made an honest mistake.
The state says it was fraud. Raquel says she was paying back the nearly $14,000 in unemployment and fines.
Then the next thing I know, they're filing a criminal case against me in court.
Raquel says she pled down to a misdemeanor so she wouldn't have a felony on her record.
I'm going up against unemployment. How am I going to do that?
Now that she's out of a job during the pandemic, she doesn't get her unemployment benefits.
You don't know, are you going to be able to eat, pay your heat bill? It's scary, all because of a mistake.
Raquel and Amanda say they're worried we'll see more cases like theirs now that more people are filing for unemployment. Their warning? Read those questions carefully, because sometimes you can't afford to make a mistake. Amanda St. Hilaire, Fox 6 Investigators.
The Department of Workforce Development did answer some questions via email, including what happens if you can't afford to pay your unemployment back. We have details of those answers on our website at fox6now.com.